Most people say they want freedom. They talk about it, dream about it, post quotes about it, share reels about it. They say they want financial freedom, time freedom, location freedom, emotional freedom. But look closely at how they actually live. Look at the choices they make every single day. Their life tells a different story. Because if most people truly wanted freedom, the world would not look like this. Offices would not be full of people who hate their jobs. Weekends would not feel like escape from a prison. People would not stay in relationships, careers, and identities that slowly kill them. So maybe the truth is darker and more uncomfortable than it sounds. Maybe most people don't actually want freedom. They just want a more comfortable cage. Freedom sounds beautiful when it is far away, when it is an idea, a dream, a fantasy. In your head, freedom means waking up whenever you want, doing whatever you want, going wherever you want, answering to no one. It looks like beaches, sunsets, traveling, passion projects, zero pressure. In your imagination, freedom is all pleasure and no weight. But real freedom in real life is not like that. Real freedom comes with something most people are terrified of: responsibility. The moment you are free, you lose the right to blame anyone else. You lose the right to say, "My boss made me. My parents forced me. The system trapped me." Freedom means your decisions are yours. Your failures are yours. Your results are yours. And deep down, that level of responsibility scares people more than any boss, any rule, any system. Think about how life is structured for the average person. From childhood, the path is already designed. School tells you what to study, when to sit, when to speak, when to be silent. You don't choose what matters. The system chooses for you. Then college tells you which degree is safe. Society tells you which job is respectable. Your relatives tell you which lifestyle looks normal. You are guided, pushed, nudged at every step. And you get something very tempting in return. You get the ability to say, "I just followed the path." If something goes wrong, you can blame the structure, the system, the expectations. You get to keep your hands clean. That is the trade. You give up freedom, and you receive escape from responsibility. Most people accept that trade happily. They complain loudly, but they accept it. They complain about their job, but they never design an alternative. They complain about their schedule, but they never sit alone to ask, "What do I actually want my days to look like?" Because the moment they design their own life, the excuse, "I had no choice," disappears. And that excuse is very comfortable. It protects the ego from the pain of, "I could have done more, but I didn't." Real freedom is quiet, heavy, and brutally honest. Imagine you wake up tomorrow and there is no boss, no timetable, no parent, no teacher, no one telling you what to do, no one checking if you worked or wasted your time, no one forcing you to stay in a job or a city or a relationship. You are free, fully free. Now the real question begins. What do you do with that day? What do you build? What do you move toward? Most people like the idea of that day, but if they actually had it, they would feel intense anxiety. Because suddenly it's all on them. They can't hide behind, "I was busy." They can't hide behind, "They made me." They can't hide behind, "I had to." When a person with no structure wastes an entire day scrolling, avoiding, distracting, there is no one left to blame. That level of honesty is unbearable for many people. That's why distraction is so attractive. Distraction is not just fun, it is protection. As long as your mind is filled with noise, you never have to sit with the painful truth of your own freedom. Reels, notifications, group chats, constant content, endless to-do lists. All of this keeps you safely away from the one question that freedom always asks. Now that nobody is stopping you, what are you going to do? If the answer is, "I don't know," that hurts. So people soften it with noise. They say they want freedom, but every time they get a free moment, they instantly fill it. They distract themselves from their own potential. Another reason most people don't actually want freedom is that freedom destroys identity stories that feel safe. Suppose someone has told themselves for years, "I could have done big things, but my parents never supported me." Or, "The system is rigged, that's why I'm stuck." These stories are painful but comfortable. They protect a simple idea: it's not my fault. Now imagine that person suddenly gets a real chance at freedom. a risk they can take, a project they can build, a path they can create for themselves. If they take it and fail, the story collapses. They can no longer say, I never had a chance. They will have to say, I had a chance and I couldn't use it. That is far more painful than blaming circumstances. So instead of taking the risk that freedom offers, they reject it and hold on to their old story. This is also why many people secretly love having something to complain about. They don't admit it, but they emotionally depend on their problems. It gives them identity. The overworked employee, the misunderstood artist, the victim of the system, the person who could have been great if only. These identities become comfortable cages. Freedom would mean dropping the cage and stepping into a new, unknown self. Most people are more loyal to their pain than to their potential. They cling to the story that hurts them because it also protects them from the terror of full responsibility. Look at how fear behaves when real freedom appears. A person says they want to be financially free. Then an opportunity comes, a side project, a business idea, a skill to learn that could, over years, lead to real independence. At first they feel excited. Then the fear starts whispering. What if you fail? What will people say if you try and collapse? What if you succeed and then can't handle it? What if you become free and lose everything familiar? Suddenly, the safe salary, the predictable routine, the known discomfort of their current life starts looking attractive compared to the unpredictable chaos of freedom. The mind chooses the pain it already understands instead of the risk it cannot control. Freedom and uncertainty are twins. You cannot separate them. The more freedom you have, the more uncertainty you must live with. When you choose your own path, there is no guarantee. No one promises you that it will work. No one signs a document saying, if you take this risk, success is assured. That uncertainty is a heavy emotional cost. Average life, on the other hand, comes with a predictable script. You know what happens if you follow the standard path. School, job, marriage, EMI, weekend, repeat. You may not love it, but at least you know it. Success on your own terms, freedom on your own terms, has no manual, no guarantee, no clear timeline. That terrifies people more than their current problems. There is another hidden layer. Real freedom requires you to confront your desires honestly. Not the desires you borrowed from others, not, I want a big house because everyone wants it, or I want a certain job title because society respects it. Freedom asks, what do you actually want if nobody was watching? Many people don't know. They've spent so long chasing what they're supposed to want that they've never developed their own taste, their own vision. If you give a person like that full freedom, they don't know where to go. They feel empty. And emptiness is frightening. So instead of building individuality, they cling to instruction. They choose being told what to do over the hard work of deciding who to be. This is why superficial rebellion is so common and real freedom is so rare. People say, I don't want to be controlled. But then they let trends, algorithms, and opinions control them every day. They say, I hate rules. But then they follow invisible rules set by friends, influencers, and strangers. They think they are choosing freely, but their choices are just reactions to what others are doing. Real freedom is not shouting, I'm free. Real freedom is silently making decisions that may look wrong to everyone else, but feel truthful to you. And then taking full responsibility for the consequences, good or bad. That level of inner independence is terrifying. It costs too much ego. So most people settle for a loud performance of freedom on the surface and quiet obedience underneath. Notice how people react when someone around them actually becomes free. When a friend quits a job they hate and starts building something they love, everyone says, wow, so inspiring. But underneath, many feel uncomfortable because that friend becomes a mirror, a living proof that a different life is possible. If that person can walk away, then what is your excuse for staying stuck? Free people make trapped people uneasy. It is easier to call them reckless, lucky, or unrealistic than to admit that they had the courage you avoided. Most people do not cheer for freedom. They cheer for safe choices that look slightly better than their own. Here is the most brutal part. Freedom does not feel good in the beginning. It feels like loss. When you step out of a cage, you don't immediately fly. You stumble. You fall. You feel exposed. You lose the structure that kept you numb. Days feel too quiet, too open, too unstructured. There is no one to blame, no one to impress, no fixed ladder to climb. Your old identity dies faster than your new identity is born. That gap in the middle is where most people run back to their cage. They misinterpret the discomfort of growth as proof that freedom was a mistake. They say, "See, I was happier when I was busy and controlled." They forget that they weren't happy then, just distracted. Average life, on the other hand, feels safe because it is crowded. It gives you company. When everyone around you is living the same way, your suffering feels normal. You don't have to face the shame of being the only one struggling. The crowd gives you comfort. You can say, everyone is stressed. Everyone is stuck. Everyone hates Mondays. The pain becomes a group event. Freedom often looks lonely at first. When you choose a different path, there may be long stretches where nobody understands what you're doing. You may look like you're wrong. You may look like you're losing. That social discomfort is another cost of freedom that most people are unwilling to pay. So when people say, "I want freedom," what do they usually mean? They don't mean complete responsibility. They mean they want the good parts of freedom without the weight. They want income without risk, choice without consequence, independence without uncertainty, success without sacrifice. They want the feeling of being free while staying safely inside structures that protect them from responsibility. They want a comfortable job that feels free, a relationship that feels free, a schedule that feels free. In other words, they want more space inside the cage, not life outside the cage. If you really want to test whether you actually want freedom, ask yourself a few harsh questions. If tomorrow no one was checking what time you wake up, would you still choose to get up early to work on your goals? If no one was forcing you to stay in your current city, would you stay or leave? If you could not blame your boss, your family, your circumstances for your results, what would you change first? If failure was entirely your responsibility, would you still choose the dream you keep talking about? Or is your dream just something safe to fantasize about while you live a life chosen by others? The hardest truth is this: freedom is always available, but not always taken. You may not be able to change everything overnight. You may have limitations, real constraints, real obligations. But somewhere in your life, there is a small zone where you could choose differently, where you could take more responsibility, where you could move a little closer to the life you claim you want. Most people ignore that zone. They wait for perfect freedom in the future instead of practicing small freedom in the present. They say, "One day, when everything is safe, then I'll choose." They don't realize that by avoiding small risks now, they are building a habit of avoiding big freedom later. So maybe the real question is not, do you want freedom? The real question is, what level of responsibility are you actually willing to carry? Because freedom is not a feeling. Freedom is a weight. Freedom is the weight of owning your choices when they go wrong. Freedom is the weight of saying, "This is my life. If it stays like this, it's on me. If it changes, it's on me." Many people feel strong when they say, "I want freedom." But you only know their truth when you see how much responsibility they accept when freedom knocks. And now, make it personal. If all the noise stopped, if all the structures faded, if tomorrow you woke up and nobody told you what to do, where to go, who to be, if you truly had that raw, uncomfortable, honest freedom, what would you do with it? Would you finally move? Or would you slowly rebuild a new cage that looks different but feels the same?